Have you ever promised yourself that this time would be different, and then quietly quit a few days later? Not because you didn't care. Not because you were lazy. But because something inside you just shut down. Maybe you told yourself you'd get fit. You even felt proud for a moment. Maybe you bought books you were sure you'd read. Or planned a fresh start that lasted exactly 3 days. And then life happened. Energy dropped. Motivation faded. And the same old cycle returned. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. The problem isn't your discipline. It isn't your intelligence. And it isn't a lack of motivation. The real problem is the way you're trying to change. Most people believe change has to be dramatic to be real. Big goals. Big promises. Big pressure. And when they can't keep up, they assume something is wrong with them. But what if the exact thing you believe should work is the reason it never does? In this video, I'm going to show you why big goals quietly fail most people, and why the smallest changes, the ones that feel almost pointless, are the ones that actually reshape lives. Not overnight. Not magically. But permanently. And here's the reward for staying until the end. You'll walk away with a single, simple rule that removes overwhelm, kills procrastination, and makes consistency feel natural instead of forced. A rule you can apply today, even if you failed every goal before. So before you judge yourself again, before you give up on that goal one more time, let me tell you a story that might completely change how you think about change itself. Ethan was the kind of person people described as full of potential. He was smart. He worked hard. And from the outside, his life looked perfectly fine. But inside, Ethan felt deeply frustrated with himself. Not because he was lazy, but because every time he tried to improve his life, he failed in the exact same way. Every fresh start began the same. A burst of motivation. A strong promise. A list written with confidence. This is my year, he'd tell himself. He planned everything at once. Daily workouts. Early mornings. Reading every night. Learning a new skill. Eating perfectly. Meditating.
No excuses.
For a few days, it worked. He felt powerful. Focused. Almost unstoppable. People noticed. They asked what had changed. Ethan smiled and said, "I'm finally becoming the best version of myself." But then reality arrived. His body felt sore. Waking up early drained him. The habits started to clash with each other. One missed workout turned into 2. One late night erased the morning routine. And slowly, quietly, the plan collapsed. Within a couple of weeks, Ethan was back where he started. Same routine. Same habits. But now with something extra, disappointment. Not just because he failed, but because it confirmed a fear he hated facing. What if I'm just not someone who can change? This wasn't the first time. He had tried this approach again and again. New years. New goals. Same ending. And without realizing it, Ethan was trapped in a dangerous belief. That change had to be extreme to matter. That anything small was pointless. That it was all or nothing. What he didn't see yet was that this belief was the very thing keeping him stuck. The all or nothing mindset sounds powerful. It feels serious. It feels committed. If I'm going to change, Ethan believed, I have to change everything. So he pushed hard. Too hard. He didn't just want to exercise. He wanted to work out every single day. For at least an hour.
No exceptions.
He didn't just want to read more. He wanted 50 pages a night. Even on the days he was exhausted. He didn't just want to wake up earlier. He wanted 5 in the morning. Every day.
No merci.
On paper, it looked impressive. In real life, it was impossible. Because willpower is not infinite. Energy runs out. Life interrupts. And the moment Ethan missed one habit, something strange happened in his mind. He didn't think, I missed today. He thought, I failed. One small slip turned into permission to quit. One bad day became a bad week. And soon, the entire plan was abandoned. That's the hidden danger of all-or-nothing thinking. It turns tiny mistakes into total collapse. Instead of flexibility, it creates pressure. Instead of progress, it creates guilt. Instead of confidence, it creates shame. And the worst part? Every time Ethan quit, he wasn't just losing a habit. He was losing trust in himself. Each failure whispered the same lie. See? You can't stay consistent. You always quit. This is just who you are. But that voice was wrong. The problem wasn't Ethan. It was the system he kept using. And it took one unexpected moment, one uncomfortable comparison, for him to finally realize it. Ethan almost didn't go. The invitation had been sitting on his desk for days, unopened, like it was judging him. A college reunion. 10 years since graduation. Part of him wanted to ignore it. Another part told him to go, just to prove he was doing fine. So he went. The room was loud. Laughter everywhere. Familiar faces, older but confident. And within minutes, the questions started coming. So, Ethan, what have you been up to? He smiled. He nodded. He gave the safest answer possible. Just work. Staying busy. But inside, his chest felt tight. Around him, people were sharing stories. New businesses. Books written. Countries traveled. Marathons completed. Each story felt like a quiet reminder of everything Ethan had planned to do, and never followed through on. Then he saw Lucas. Lucas had been the last person anyone expected to succeed. Late to class. Always distracted. No clear direction. But now, Lucas looked different. Healthy. Calm. Confident. Not flashy. Just solid. Ethan couldn't stop himself. Lucas, he said, forcing a laugh, you look great. What changed? Lucas smiled, like the answer was simple. I stopped trying to change my life, he said. I just focused on getting 1% better each day. Ethan frowned. 1%. That sounded weak. Almost laughable. How could something so small create a life that looked so different? Lucas saw the doubt on his face. I thought the same thing, he said. Until someone showed me why it works. Before they parted, Lucas handed Ethan a card. Talk to her, he said. She helped me when I was stuck. If you're tired of starting over, she'll make it make sense. That night, Ethan lay in bed staring at the card. Part of him wanted to throw it away. He'd chased hope before. It always ended the same. But another part of him, quieter, tired, honest, asked a dangerous question. What if I've been wrong this whole time? The next morning, Ethan made the call. He didn't feel excited. He didn't feel hopeful. He mostly felt tired of repeating the same cycle. Clara's office surprised him.
No loud posters. No hype.
No speeches about grinding harder. Just a small room. 2 chairs. A whiteboard. Clara listened quietly as Ethan explained everything. The big goals. The strong starts. The familiar failures. The shame that followed. When he finished, she didn't judge him. She didn't motivate him. She smiled gently and said, You're not broken. You're just using a strategy that works against human nature. She stood up and wrote 2 numbers on the board. 1.01. To the power of 365. Then she wrote another. 0.99 to the power of 365. Ethan stared at the board, confused. Clara turned to him. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, she said, you don't end up a little better. You end up almost 40 times better. She tapped the second number. And if you get 1% worse each day, skipping habits, avoiding effort, delaying change, you don't stay the same. You almost disappear. Something clicked. For the first time, change didn't feel emotional. It felt mathematical. Clara sat back down. You keep trying to become a new person overnight, she said. That's why you burn out. Real change doesn't come from intensity. It comes from consistency. Ethan leaned forward. So what do I do? He asked. What's the first step? Clara didn't hesitate. You stop chasing big wins, she said. And you start proving to yourself that you can keep small promises. And then she said something that sounded almost ridiculous. Tell me the smallest possible version of the change you want. Ethan thought for a moment. I want to get in shape, he said. Clara nodded. Too big. Smaller. I want to start running. She shook her head. Still too big. Smaller. Ethan paused, slightly annoyed now. I want to jog, he said. Clara smiled. Smaller. He exhaled. I want to put on my running shoes. That's when Clara smiled wider. Perfect. Ethan laughed. That's it. That won't change anything. Clara leaned forward. That's the point, she said. It's so small that your brain has no excuse to resist it. She explained something Ethan had never considered before. You don't fail because you hate the goal, she said. You fail because the starting point feels painful. So we remove the pain. For the next 7 days, all you have to do is this, she continued. Every morning, put on your running shoes. No running.
No jogging.
No stepping outside. Just the shoes. Ethan felt something unexpected. Relief. There was no pressure to perform. No fear of failing. No exhausting standard to live up to. But what does that accomplish? He asked. Clara's voice stayed calm. You've been trying to become a runner, she said. But identity doesn't change through goals. It changes through repetition. You don't need to run 5 miles. You need to become the kind of person who puts on running shoes every day. She paused. Once you are that person, running becomes a side effect. Ethan left the office confused, but lighter. For the first time in years, he wasn't scared of the plan. Because it didn't ask him to be strong. It only asked him to show up. The next morning, Ethan's alarm went off. No surge of motivation.
No sudden excitement.
Just habit. He sat up, reached for his shoes, and put them on. Then he made coffee. That was it. Day 1. Day 2 looked the same. Shoes on. Coffee. Couch. Day 3, he put on the shoes and stood by the door for a moment. Then sat back down. No pressure.
No guilt.
By day 4, it felt strange not to put them on. Like forgetting to brush his teeth. That's when Ethan noticed something important. The habit wasn't hard anymore. Thinking about it was. On the 5th day, he stepped outside for a few seconds. Cold air. Quiet street. Then he went back in. And something had changed. Not his body. Not his fitness. His identity. He was becoming someone who showed up. On the 6th day, he put on his shoes, walked outside, and his legs moved. Not because he forced them. Because stopping felt unnatural now. He jogged for 2 minutes. Then walked home.
No celebration.
No big moment. Just proof. The habit had crossed a line. Consistency no longer required motivation. It ran on routine. When Ethan met Clara again, she didn't congratulate him. She said, "Good. Don't add anything. Let this become automatic." Because the real power of small habits isn't how impressive they look, it's how quietly they change who you believe you are. Something strange started happening after that. Ethan didn't feel more motivated. He didn't feel disciplined. He didn't feel like a new man. But he started acting like one. Putting on his shoes no longer felt like effort. It felt normal. Like something he just did. And that's when Clara explained the real shift. "Most people try to change their behavior," she said. "But behavior never lasts without identity. You don't rise to the level of your goals," she told him. "You fall to the level of who you believe you are." Ethan had always told himself the same story.
I'm inconsistent.
I start strong and quit. I can't stick to things. Every failure had reinforced that identity. But now, something new was forming. He was the guy who put on his running shoes every morning. Not sometimes. Not when he felt like it. Every day. And once that identity settled in, progress followed naturally. 5 minutes of jogging turned into 10. 10 turned into 15. Not because he forced himself, but because it felt aligned with who he was becoming. One afternoon, a coworker noticed his shoes by his desk and asked, "Are you a runner now?" Ethan almost said no. He still didn't run far. He still didn't feel impressive. But then he thought about it. He had shown up nearly every day for weeks. He had kept a promise to himself longer than ever before. "Yeah," he said, surprising himself. "I guess I am." That moment mattered more than any workout. Because once you believe this is who I am, your actions stop feeling like effort and start feeling like evidence. Once that identity locked in, everything else became easier. Not faster. Not dramatic. Just easier. Ethan didn't wake up one day transformed. There was no sudden breakthrough. No big celebration. But the habit kept rolling. 15 minutes of running became 20. Then 30. Not every day. But often enough to matter. And something important happened. Because he was winning once a day, he stopped looking for motivation everywhere else. He didn't need hype. He didn't need disciplined speeches. He already had proof. Proof that he could keep a promise. That confidence spilled into other areas. Clara introduced a second habit, but only after weeks of consistency. Reading. 10 minutes before bed. Not chapters. Not pages. 10 minutes. Some nights it was 1 page. Some nights it was 3. But the rule was the same. Show up. Then came another habit. 5 minutes learning a new language. Not 45. 5. Ethan wasn't trying to do everything. He was stacking small wins. And each small win made the next one easier. This is how change actually works. Not by force, but by momentum. Most people fail because they try to push a heavy boulder uphill with pure effort. Ethan stopped pushing. He let the snowball roll. And over time, something strange happened. What once felt impossible started to feel inevitable. The strange thing about real change is that you don't notice it while it's happening. Ethan didn't wake up one morning feeling different. He didn't look in the mirror and see a new version of himself. Most days felt ordinary. He still had lazy moments. Still missed a run sometimes. Still had bad days. And that's why this kind of change works. Because it doesn't rely on emotion. It doesn't need excitement. It survives boredom. Weeks passed. Then months. The habit stayed small. Manageable. almost boring. But underneath that boredom, something was quietly compounding. Ethan's sister visited one evening and stopped mid-sentence when she saw him. She tilted her head. "You look different," she said. Ethan laughed. "I do." She nodded. "Yeah. I can't explain it. You just do." That's when he realized the truth. The change had been happening so slowly that he never felt it. Like watching a clock move. Invisible in the moment. Obvious in hindsight. That's the trap most people fall into. They quit because they don't feel progress. They stop because nothing seems to be happening. But progress doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. And one day, without warning, it shows up everywhere. In your energy. In your confidence. In the way people respond to you. Transformation doesn't knock. It sneaks up on you. Almost a year later, Ethan found himself walking into the same building. Same city. Same hotel. Another gathering. This time, his chest didn't tighten. He didn't rehearse answers in his head. He didn't feel the urge to hide. People noticed him immediately. Not because he was trying to impress anyone, but because confidence has a quiet weight to it. The questions came again. "So, Ethan, what have you been up to?" And this time, he didn't rush the answer. "I changed a few habits," he said. "Nothing big." They laughed. Encouraged him to explain. And as he talked, he realized something. There was no dramatic story. No overnight success. Just one small decision, repeated. When someone asked how he stayed consistent, Ethan smiled. "I stopped trying to change my life," he said. "I just started keeping tiny promises." A few people nodded politely. But a few leaned closer. Those were the ones who were tired. The ones who had tried and failed. The ones who recognized the pain. Later that night, one of them asked quietly, "But where do you even start?" Ethan didn't give a speech. He gave them the same answer that changed everything for him. Start smaller than you think makes sense. Ethan pulled out his notebook. Not because it looked impressive, but because it reminded him where he started. He looked at the person in front of him and said, "Forget motivation. Forget willpower. Forget big plans. Just answer one question. What is the smallest version of the change you want? If you want to get fit, don't plan a workout routine. Put on your workout clothes. If you want to write a book, don't plan chapters. Write one sentence. If you want to learn a skill, don't schedule an hour. Touch it for 2 minutes. The rule is simple. So simple it feels useless. But that's why it works. Because the goal is not results. The goal is identity. You're not trying to run miles. You're trying to become someone who shows up. And once you show up consistently, results stop being a struggle. They become a side effect. Ethan learned this the hard way. Doing something small every day beats doing something huge once. Every single time. So here's your challenge. Pick one habit. Just one. Make it so small that skipping it feels silly. Then do it every day for 30 days. Don't improve it. Don't expand it. Don't judge it. Just keep the promise. Because the person who can keep one small promise can eventually change their entire life. Here's the part most people miss. Change doesn't fail because the goal is too small. It fails because the goal is too big to repeat. 1% sounds harmless. Almost insulting. But 1% done every day doesn't stay small. It compounds. Quietly. Relentlessly. If you improve by 1% today, nothing dramatic happens. Tomorrow looks the same. So does next week. And that's exactly why most people quit right there. They're waiting to feel progress. They're waiting to see change. But the real shift happens underneath the surface. While you're showing up, your brain is learning something new. I'm someone who keeps promises. I'm someone who doesn't quit. I'm someone who shows up even when it's boring. That identity is worth more than motivation, more than discipline, more than any goal. Because once you believe that about yourself, you don't need to force change anymore. You become it. That's why 1% works. Not because it's impressive, but because it's sustainable. So if you've failed before, good. It doesn't mean you can't change. It means you've been asking too much, too fast. Lower the bar. Shrink the habit. Protect consistency. One small action. Every day. Because you don't need to change your life overnight. You just need to be 1% better than yesterday.